listen to this episode if you have fallen out of love with your business, or you're feeling a little burnt out, or you feel like you need to burn it all down in order to really come out on the other side, and you're unsure how to crawl out of this hole of burnout that you have dug yourself into and really move back to that passion-filled business that you once had. If you have been in my community for a while, you know that this is my major mission in business, is to help people that have started this passion-filled business and to help them learn how to run their business in a very sustainable way, learn how to run their business in a way that doesn't burn them out. And this episode is going to be for those people. This episode is really something that is so near and dear to my heart. If you know my story, is that I ran a business that I absolutely love for a really long time. And it was something that became so overpowering in my life. It became so overwhelming that it was my entire personality. It was my entire self-worth. It was my entire means of feeling like achievement. It was my major passion. And when I lost it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea who I am anymore. I don't know what to even do. And it totally burnt me out. Like the business itself, I was burnt out from it. I was ready to be done. I was ready to kind of like do my own thing and get into a more sustainable life. And I had to learn every few months, like every 6 months, how to dig myself out of this major stage of burnout that I felt, because it was a seasonal business. So I would run it for 4 to 5 months-ish, kind of 6 months, let's say. I ran it for 6 months, and then the season would end and I would be like, oh my gosh, now what do I do with my life? It would take me a month to dig myself out of it and try to figure out how to do it a different way. And when I started this business, it was my major mission in business and in life, was to teach other people how to run a business that didn't have to feel all encompassing, all empowering, literally all consuming. And most people start their business for freedom. Most people start their business because they're so passionate about the business that they're starting. They're so passionate about the topic that they have. It is something that is near and dear to their heart, just like this. I started this business to be a major piece of I wanted it to be it is my mission in life, is to teach people that your business doesn't need to feel this way. And a lot of people start their business for the same reason, is because they have some story that they can connect back to it. And so if you started this business out of passion and love for the idea and creativity, whatever that might be, and now it's feeling like you just don't love it anymore the way that you used to, this episode is going to be perfect for you. If you're feeling like your business is almost like a chore, if you're feeling like, it used to be so much fun and you've kind of lost that spark for it. It was once passion filled, but now it's just this long to-do list, and you don't really get to do the things that you even really want to do, because that's just how business kind of started. It feels like you've kind of gone too far to be able to start fresh again. Maybe you kind of silently dream about getting a 9-to-5. I hear that a lot, is sometimes I look at my friends with a 9-to-5 that they can shut their laptops at 5 p.m. and not have to think about it, and think about how nice that would be. Oh my gosh, working 40 hours a week sounds lovely. Or maybe you're like Maddie. Oftentimes I get so tired and overwhelmed, I just feel like I want to burn it to the ground and start over. I'm here to tell you, you don't need to burn it to the ground. We're going to give you a solid strategy today, a really solid framework in order to really analyze your business, make some good business decisions as to how we can crawl ourselves out of this, and how we can come back on a different front and never get back to the point that you are today. If you're new here, I just want to give you a really warm welcome. My name is Madison Page. I am a business growth specialist. I help product-based business owners grow and scale their businesses through social media without burnout. My major focus is building a freepreneur life for people online. It is my entire mission and narrative in my business, is I really want to switch the narrative around business has to be this way. Business has to be all consuming. You have to, it's too normalized that business should be your entire life. I see evidence of it every single day, even with some of my favorite business owners, as them posting about how, business was owning a business was the last day they were ever bored, or anything along those lines. And, I've been guilty of saying those things. I used to say all the time, I'd rather be busy than bored. When people would ask me how running this business was, I really now want to specialize in is helping people build and scale businesses either without burnout or helping them climb out of it, because it is very important in your your life, if we want to run a business, we have to be able to operate it in a sustainable way, because you started this business for freedom and fun and passion. And right now, if you're listening to this episode, it might not be feeling that way. And I want to change that. So without further ado, I just wanted to give you a really warm welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm going to kind of dive into this. And at first, we have to be kind of transparent, because this episode, or this kind of problem that we have, like this topic in general, is a topic that we have to be very transparent and very open and very honest with ourselves. Feeling burnout in your business is oftentimes an operational issue, meaning it's oftentimes like an admin behind the scenes issue. It's not having boundaries in certain places. It's having inefficiencies that we've just kind of accepted. It's us telling ourselves that it has to be done this way. And a lot of times it's because of the narrative that we see. It's the narrative that business ownership is just busy. It is something that you need to have these long days and missing dinners with your family and missing weekends at home and things like that, where that doesn't have to be the case if we just have an operation. Like if we have a business that is set up from the core for sustainability, you absolutely can build that sustainability in. It's almost like we get so caught up in our business and the business starts to grow. So you started at a certain point, you're like, all right, I have this idea. I want to start this business. I love this idea. Maybe you kind of like fell into the idea of being a business owner. People started buying it. You were like, sweet, let's turn this into a business. And people started buying. You were operating at a certain capacity, at like in a certain way. And then the sales just kind of kept climbing and your systems and your processes stayed pretty similar. And this is where burnout comes from, is because you can't operate your business the same way when you were starting your business as when you are scaling your business, because you're running a different business now. Your business has changed. We have to scale it in a different way. I like to refer to this like an athlete. If you think of this as like when you're learning a sport, you trained in a certain way. When you were learning your sport, you were training based on the fundamentals. You were getting kind of the basics down. You were just kind of like getting into shape for that sport. But if you were trying to hit the Olympics, or you were trying to be on the USA team, or you were trying to play in college or whatever, we had to train at a different level. We had to shift how we were actually training because we were trying to grow our abilities. At the beginning, we just needed to understand kind of the fundamentals of the game in and of itself. We had to understand how to play. We had to be in shape in order to play. And then when you're trying to play at a very big league, at a very big scale, if you're trying to get better and you're trying to level up, you had to train differently. You had to almost like hone in on small little things that you didn't have to do at the beginning. So like for me, I played basketball for like 15 years. Literally, I was 5 years old, and church league basketball, I played all the way through high school. I played for so long. And at first, at my church league basketball, from kindergarten through 5th grade, a lot of it was just learning the sport, learning how to shoot, learning how to dribble, learning how to pass, all of that. And then when I got to be a little bit more specialized, I started playing, the AAU, or that might be a Midwest term, like the select, or like the club league, or whatever you want to call it. I started playing at a very different level. I had a strength and conditioning coach. I had an agility person. Like we had people that were specialists that we then had to hone in on very specific new skills in order to go from like, we know the fundamentals and we're playing the sport, to being like, all right, no, we're going to be like really good at this. And we had to go at a different level. We had to adapt the way that we operated and that we adjusted how we actually played. We had to adapt the way that we practiced so we would play in a different way. And it's the same thing when it comes to business. When you're starting, you're working on the fundamentals, you're marketing, and you're working on your marketing, and you're working on your sales. That's why in my program, Product to Profit, at my growing your business program, is all about fundamentals. It's all about branding and marketing and sales. And then when we look at scaling your business, scaling is all about fine tuning. It's all about specialty things. It's all about understanding how we can do things more efficiently. It's about finding inefficiencies. It's about filling gaps that we now have. It's not as much these like big major changes. And so when we're looking at this from a burnout perspective, oftentimes, we started our business and we were running it. And then all the sales started to grow. We started to make more sales. More things started to happen. We got more orders, and we kind of just kept on operating at this fundamental level. And we never really adapted. We tell ourselves like, this is how it has to be. This is how my business runs. This is just how it has to be. I have to fill more orders. And you get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, I literally couldn't take any more orders because because my time is capped, because my time is not I'm not able to actually make any more orders because I don't have any more time in the day. I'm working, you might be working 80 plus hours and maybe you hire people and then it's just money going out of the business and it's causing more cash flow stress of managing a team, whatever that might be. Normally, this is this burnout and this overwhelm. It's a pattern. I see it over and over again. Maybe you take on sales or custom orders that you don't really want to be taking, and then you're not even running the business that you really want to be running anymore. It's just people telling you what to make or whatever that might be. We basically run this business. People ask for things and we're like, yeah, I don't want to turn down sales. I don't want to turn down money. So I'm going to keep doing it. And basically it's just at the expense of ourselves. And in my research on burnout, I have actually seen studies where they have seen, and I don't know where this study came from. I'll need to look at it and I'll put it down below. But there is a study out there that says that entrepreneurs are willing to put themselves through the same level of exhaustion as new parents, as newborn parents are able to accept that level of exhaustion just out of pure passion and love for what they're going after. So, a new parent is willing to put themselves through crazy levels of exhaustion because they have this wonderful new baby and it's part of having a newborn and it's just part of, the process of raising a child. It's actually been studied and found that entrepreneurs are willing to put up with a very similar level of exhaustion to build their business, but at the expense of their burnout, at the expense of their livelihood. And differently to newborn parents, this is not something that business owners have to do. Newborns, yes, their baby's crying. Yes, they have to get up in the middle of the night. Entrepreneurs, it doesn't have to be that way. And so oftentimes this feeling of running yourself ragged just because it's the business that you have and it's the business you need to operate in order to make sales come down to two things. One, like I've already said, it's because the narrative is everywhere that this is normal. I have started writing a book on this topic. My whole goal in life is to switch this narrative because this narrative is so incredibly toxic and I see every single day that it just doesn't have to be that way. So many people are saying, well, business is just so overwhelming, but that's just how running a business is, or, this hustle culture has to be there because that's just how running a business owner is. And, I'm a business owner, so I'm no longer ever going to be bored or whatever. There's so many things. I literally saw Elon Musk say the other day that, if running a business doesn't feel like eating glass, you're not doing it right. And to me, that is the biggest eye roll I could ever hear. And so this narrative is everywhere. And so we allow ourselves to see this as normal and it's just part of the gig. Let me tell you right now, it's not. The other one is that we're too busy to step back and really see what we can change or do. And we feel like we've almost dug ourselves this hole of not being able to make a change because it's going to be front loaded. It's going to take more time to actually make a change. So I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing, even though I know that I could do it differently behind the scenes. You might be like, yep, Maddie, I know all of these things that I can change, but I don't do them because it's actually going to take me time in order to do them, whether that's hiring somebody, whether that's making a big systems change, whatever that is. So I want to go through my exact process with you that I go through with my clients that come to me that are incredibly burnt out. And oftentimes it's my burnt out clients that come to me and they say, oh my gosh, Maddie, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know if I can have somebody like you come into my business because I want to be able to really take the time with you. But this is where it so absolutely pays off, is because at the end of the day, we can change how you look at your business every single day. We can change how you feel in your life. If you do this process, you can literally change the reality that you live right now. If you're feeling like, Maddie, I am tired, I am overwhelmed, I am so burnt out. Maybe your team is tired. Maybe you are overwhelmed in general, whatever that looks like. This is the overall process that I put everybody through. I don't like to gatekeep around here. I really want to give you kind of the 1, 2, 3 of what we need to do. So first things first, I had a client that did this literally last week. We started this process for. First things first is vision. First step, let's reframe the vision of the business that you really want to have. Now that you know where your business got you to this burnout point, what is your ideal state? And we need to really paint that vision. And we're not just making a vision board. I want you to create what you really would love your business to look like. Map out what what your ideal day would look like, what your ideal sales would look like. If you could, in your business, do anything, what would you do? If nobody else's emotions, no guilt was put on you, if you could run the business of your dreams without any complaining from anybody else of the changes that you made, if you were starting a new business, what would that business look like? What would your day-to-day look like? What products would you offer? How would you market it? What would your team look like? And how would that really be? Now, if you're saying, Maddie, I really want to change this, I really want to change that, you'll start to see pieces that you would really like to change. And now, before you even ask yourself, it's like, tell yourself the statement of like, well, I couldn't do that because of this major reason, or I could never make that change because of these other things, or I could never remove that product like category because so many people would be upset. I want you to first take a reflection. I want you to look at your entire business and look at your operations, look at your product suite. What do you despise? And start to say, okay, this is the business that I would love to have. And now let us reflect at the business that you have right now. I want you to look at those operations. I want you to look at the product suite. I want you to ask yourself, like, what is getting in the way of actually creating that? What is the major difference there? Is it the things that you're offering? Is it the amount of orders that you're willing to take? Is it the amount of customs that you're willing to take every month? Is it that you have allowed for one area of your business to totally run your life? Is it that you totally need an assistant, or that, cleaning up at the end of the day takes so much time from you? What is the piece that is the difference between the business that you have versus the vision that you would love to have? And a lot of this is going to have to be like a non-emotional, like we have to be able to look at this and say, if you were a neutral third party, what would you say to this difference? Like if you were me looking at this, what would you think that I would tell you? I want you to look at like what's getting in the way of making this happen. What's causing you the most amount of stress? That's one of my favorite questions to ask people is, right now in your business, what do you hate the most? And people might say, oh my gosh, my launches are so incredibly, like they are so demanding. My launches are so demanding on me. Some people might say social media is just so tough, or like my team is really hard to manage, or maybe, this takes so much time, or I really have this product in my suite and I don't really want to be making it, but it's something that a lot of people really love, or, this is taking a lot of my time and it doesn't even really make me a lot of money. What is the thing that you hate doing in your business? And now we have to look at your overall vision of your brand, and does that fit within the vision of your brand that we're looking at? Now that we have like kind of a tangible before and after, hopefully, where we're at now versus what your desired state is, we need to actually look at your numbers. We have to get some facts. That is very feeling focused. Now we want to look at facts. What are the facts? What are your finances? And what are your sales like? How much money are these things actually bringing in? Is there evidence that people would buy something else if there was an option there? And we actually look and analyze and make a decision on what can we actually cut and simplify, and what is actually necessary to stay, that we just have to change the actual process behind it. And so this really comes down to, all right, let's look at if launching is really, demanding for you. What part of it is really demanding? And do we need to run our launches that way? Are there pieces that we can change? Do we need to decrease the amount of things that we launch? Do we need to increase the amount of inventory? What is the actual kind of consensus around, like, what is the piece of that is causing it to be so like demanding on you? A lot of times it's kind of like an onion. I'm like, okay, what do you hate about your business? All right, let's talk about like custom orders. All right, why do you hate custom orders? Because you don't get to create what you want to create. Okay, why don't you get to create what you want to create? And it's, okay, well, I take so many custom orders that I never actually get to create the stuff that I just want to make through my own creativity. Well, why do you take so many custom orders? Well, it's because I have so much demand for it, and that's like what people buy. Okay, but why do you feel like you have so much demand for it? Is it that people actually want custom orders, or is it that you don't actually have collections on your website, so there's nothing else for them to buy because you've actually perpetuated this cycle of the only thing that's available is for them to order custom orders? And then they're like, oh, well, yeah, like I don't have anything on my website to buy because I've taken too many orders, which then brings us to number 5, which is kind of skipping a step, but the major simplifying action is 4. Number 5 is then we have to set boundaries. A lot of things kind of come down to boundaries and what we like, really setting firm stakes in the ground within our business. So we first are setting that vision. What's the business we desire to have? And then we reflect, what is the business that we have? We analyze what's the difference there. And then we look at our business and actually look at the data, look at the finances, look at what that reason is, and kind of like peel back that onion a little bit. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way in so many ways? And what is actually necessary and what can we simplify? And then we once we analyze, we have an emotional front, we have a fact-based, like we have emotional, which is like your transformation, like this is where we would rather be. We have a fact-based approach, which is looking at the numbers, seeing what are the things that we actually can make and what are the things we actually have to do. And now it comes down to actually making a plan. This is where you start making big simplifying actions in your business. This is where we cut off custom orders for the next 3 months so you can catch up. You can make actual like a collection of products and start selling it in that way. Maybe it's that we cut off a bunch of your inventory, or your next launch is much smaller, or there's a bunch of different things depending on your business. Every business is completely different on what is actually causing you to burn out. Every business is slightly different because the business owner likes and dislikes different things. Every business is operated a little differently, but there are some themes. And so we then have to start making big simplifying actions. Let's cut this. We're removing this. We're removing that product suite. We're doing these different things. We're running a sale here, clearing out inventory here. We have to make this big action. In order to dig yourself out of burnout, it doesn't need to take months, but it does need to take big change, because there's a reason that you are where you are from an operational perspective. If this is fully an operational problem, we need to make major operational changes. And this, again, this doesn't need to be 6 months. This can be making one change. I have clients that we make one major change that didn't really take anything for them to actually make the change. It actually cut time off of their schedule. And they all of a sudden like revolutionized the way that they run their business. I have a client, she's shared her story on my podcast. She talks about like falling in love with her business again. It's my client Camille. And one of the major changes that we made for her was her launches were like 30 to 40 products every single time she would launch. And the marketing that it would take, the product photos it would take, the amount of admin, like product descriptions, putting them all in the website, in order for her to actually create and run that launch would be so demanding that she would crush herself for the weeks prior trying to get herself ready for it. And so what we did is we decreased the amount of products for every single launch. And immediately her business, she actually sold more products because she could market them a lot better. She felt a lot better about launching. Launches became fun. She cut out her major stressor in her business, and it actually allowed her time and space to do the big like custom orders that she really always wanted to do. So it does take some simplifying action, but it doesn't need to be that we overhaul and burn down your business in order to get there. Some people, we do kind of start fresh depending on the vision that you want to have. If you've built the business, that's totally different, but we can inch our way there and you can feel a difference really quickly. So number 1, vision. Number 2, reflection on the business you currently have. Number 3, analyze what can actually go and what is absolutely necessary, and then make major action. Next step. Where do we need to set boundaries in the actual function and operation of your business so we never get back here again? Where do we need to set boundaries so we never actually get back to this point ever again? And then like, what are you telling yourself? Where are you putting your stake in the ground that you will never do this again? I will never allow myself to do that. I will never allow myself to take more than 3 custom orders every single month. I will never, and this boundary, like I have things in my business. I will not take more clients than X, Y, and Z because I know it might increase my sales. It might help me make more money, but it's not going to help me live a better life. And so I've gotten to that point, and I made that mistake before, that I then had to set the boundary. So I had to go through it for 3 months because I have my clients for 3 months. I was like, okay, wow, I'm at too many clients. Let's bring it back. And I've set a boundary for 2 or 3 less than that at every time. So I know I never actually get to that point ever again. And then I want you to set those boundaries wait 3 months, put it on your calendar. Let's make another reflection and see what we need to do moving forward. How are you feeling around it? Have you felt like this made a big difference? Now, can we rinse and repeat this model and find other things in your business that we then can make a major change? When it comes to burnout and loving your business, again, it actually comes down to a lot of times people hit a breaking point. You get to a point that you're like, Maddie, I can never do another year again like I did in 2024. Or like, my health is so bad. I can't, like, I had a client the other day. She was like, Maddie, for whatever reason, at the end of my day, every day I'm sick. Like literally every day for months, I have been sick. I have a runny nose. I get a sore throat. It's like I almost feel feverish. She's like, and I've been to the doctor so many times. And she told me, Maddie, I think I am overworking myself. And I said that to her is like, it sounds like you have a physical stressor of sickness through your burnout that you're feeling. So that was her breaking point. She's like, I need to make a change. Like I can't be sick forever. I have kids. I have too much going on to feel sick at the end of the day, that she can never actually refuel, because the end of her day is like dealing with this sickness because she's so stressed out, which is actually very common. So whatever your breaking point might be, it might be, a day that is just too overwhelming. It might be a sickness. It might be your health. It might be finances, whatever that might be. Oftentimes, digging yourself out of burnout comes from a decision. You are one decision away from having a totally different reality. And I think that's a quote by Mel Robbins, who I love. You are one decision away from a totally different reality when it comes to burnout. And it comes from ripping off the Band-Aid and realizing that you need to change. You need to make a change. Burnout comes from repetitive actions that are causing you stress, that you are inflicting on yourself because it's just the way that it has to be, or it's just the way that I've always run it, or you're afraid of seeing the sales go down because of all of these pieces. But at a certain point, we are always making a decision based on opportunity costs. So every time you're making the decision to take another order or to keep going or to keep operating at this point, you are making the decision to stay in this perpetual burnout. If you want to see a change, you have to make the decision that you are going to make a change behind the scenes, and we're ripping the Band-Aid off and that we are fixing it. It might be a little front-loaded. You might have to cut your sales a little bit right now to be able to increase your sales later on and actually enjoy your life. But sometimes we have to ask ourselves, what is the opportunity cost of what I'm doing? If the opportunity cost of what you are doing right now is your health, your freedom, your happiness, your joy in life, is it worth it at the state that you're at right now? If your answer to that is no, we have to rip that Band-Aid off and do this process. You have to do this 6-step process. It doesn't have to take a long time. You don't have to make like crazy changes. You don't have to burn your business down. We just have to look at our business from an operational perspective and see what it is that we have to change. A lot of times I like to ask people right away, if I were to take something off of your plate, what would feel like the biggest relief? Where would you feel the biggest relief if I were to remove it from your plate? What would that feel like? What is the change or the thing that I could remove that would make the biggest difference for you? And let's start there. If it's launches, if it's social media, if it's managing your team, like how can we go about that? And I've already shared the story of Camille, and I have so many client stories here. I have clients all the time that come to me and they're like, Maddie, I'm working like 80 plus hours a week, especially during market season. My business is so overwhelming and it feels like you'll never be able to climb out of it. It feels like I don't even have the time to implement anything new in order to actually make that change. A major thing when it comes to digging yourself out of burnout and falling in love with your business again is choosing your breaking point, like making the decision that you have to make a change in your operations, in how you're running your business in order to make that change. I always say this, it's one of my major beliefs in business is nothing changes if nothing changes, whether that's in sales or marketing or running your team or burnout in general or health or whatever. If you have been doing something consistently for far too long and it has not changed or it's gotten worse, it's only going to perpetuate. If it's a pattern, it's a problem. If it has consistently not gotten better, we need to make a change in order to make that change. My dad, I grew up with the dad that constantly reiterated the definition of insanity to me, was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of an insanity. And if you have a father that repeated that to you over and over again, you are probably rolling your eyes at me. My fiance rolls his eyes at me when I say that to him, but it's true. It is absolutely true. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result or expecting that someday, when you make X amount of dollars a month, then you'll make a change. When you do this, or when you finally find the time, when you finally have the time to hire that person, you'll do it. You won't find the time. You have to make the time. It is making the decision to have a different reality. And I say this because I totally know where you are right now. I ran a business that was full of burnout over and over and over again. And it was something that I absolutely loved. It was full of so much passion for me. I adored that business, but literally there are weeks of my life that I don't remember, like literally weeks. People would be like, do you remember this staff member? And I would like barely, we lived on the same property. We lived on the property. We lived, eat, breathed everything for, 4 months with 50 plus people. And people like, I barely remember some of our staff members that would come from like 4th of July to, in the middle of August, because I was so burnt out. I was so wrapped up. I was so in my own world, in my own bubble, just running a business that I literally don't remember weeks of my life. And I would get to the end of the year and I would like literally want to go in a hobbit hole for a month. And I had the luxury of my business being seasonal, where I always said I wouldn't be able to operate it if it was 12 months at a time, but I know that I would have if it was, and I would have just been in a perpetual state of burnout. And I had to make the change, make the decision that I needed something new. I needed something else. And because I didn't have the power to make the change to my overall operations. If you are a 9-to-5 employee, it's the same thing. You either have to say, these are the boundaries that I have, or, I'm out. I have to make a different decision for myself. But if you're a business owner, we get to make the decision for ourselves. I didn't have the ability. The decision I had to make was leaving. The decision I had to make was this was no longer fit for me. The decision that you get to make in your own business is you are creating your life. You are creating your reality. You get to make the decisions of what we need to change. You need to say, I am fed up. I'm done with this and I'm ready for something else in my life. I'm ready to operate this business in a way that I love, feeling really fulfilled, feeling super passionate about it. And what are the changes that I have to make? You need to create a vision for the business you would love to have, reflect on the business that you have, look at the differences, analyze what we actually can make, and make decisions based on fact. We need to make those big simplifying actions, really start actually making decisions and making an action plan of what changes you're making, setting your boundaries, and reflect on it at the end of the day. This is one of my favorite things to help my clients through because it's something that I feel so passionate about is burnout and digging yourself out of it. Your business should feel like so much fun. I want you to feel like your business is like a project that you get to work on for your entire life. It is like this fun experiment that you're constantly like a college project that you were like this fun experiment you were constantly able to work on. That is what we're looking for in your business. And if you are feeling this extreme level of burnout, I just want you to know, take this as your sign. It's like, this can be your breaking point. You can make the decision that there's better for you out there. I would love to help you. If you have any questions, my DMs are always open for people dealing with burnout or anything in general in your business. Just DM me burnout and I would love to chat with you. Feel free. They're open. I just want to answer your questions. DM me on Instagram at This Is Madison Page. I hope this was helpful for you. This is something that I work with so many of my clients with, and most of them really, this is something that I love to work with my clients through. If you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you through it. If you want to do this process together, I absolutely can get you into a program where we can do that. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. I mean it when I say that. I truly know that there is better for you out there. You can love your business again, and it doesn't even need to take a year or 3 years or 5 years. It can be in a matter of just a couple of months. I see it all of the time in my product sales expansion program. Everybody comes out, they feel totally different about their brand, about their business, because we are able to actually make operational changes that allow for sustainable scaling. I hope you have a great day. I will see you in the next episode, and just know that there is better for you out there.